And a very good morning to you. Welcome back to TV47. This is the Morning Cafe Show, hotter than your morning coffee. And right now, we are going to be discussing the emotional impact of divorce on children. And with me in studio, I have Gabriel Nyamu, who is a purpose coach, as well as Judith Ngerechi, who is the wellness advocate champion for women and vulnerable children rights. And of course, if you would like to be a part of this conversation, please feel free to talk to us. The WhatsApp number is 0793-267-279, as well as you can also call us live on 0795-045-864. My name is Shiksha Arora and welcome to the show. Good morning to you. How are you doing today?
Good morning and pleasure having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here as we discuss this very important topic. Now, I'm going to start off by just getting you, Judith, to tell us more about what exactly is emotional wellness, especially in children. Because, you know, when we talk about kids, many people assume that kids really don't have that emotional intelligence. You know, they can just see things, they can hear things, and they can be very unbothered sometimes and indifferent towards certain scenarios. But they don't know what it truly does for a child in the long run.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry I have a bit of a cold, but...
you can have some hot water.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the thing that people don't understand is children are very much aware, they listen, and they observe. Now, what people don't understand is when there's conflict at home, children are the one that bear the most brunt.
Yes.
Why? It's because they bottle up their emotions, wondering which parent to choose, which parent to side with. So having that emotional space where the kids can have emotional stability and have a place they can be able to express themselves without fear,
right, and
without wondering, am I doing the right thing? Should I choose mom? Should I choose dad? So just being able to make sure they are in a stable and an environment where they can be able to express themselves, whether they feel good or not, and they are told that it's okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Gabriel, what about you? To begin with, what exactly is the usual emotional response of a child when their parents are getting divorced? How do they react to such a situation?
I think it's one of the things that we need to understand is that children are critical stakeholders in a family relationship. And therefore, everything that happens there affects them directly.
Absolutely.
In terms of their state of wellness, remember they are observing, as my colleague have said. They are culturing themselves in terms of understanding what order means, what does peace means, what does harmony means, by the way they view their parents behave and relate with each other. So when it comes to a place where now the parents have to divorce, the first thing, of course, they get confused.
Yeah.
Because again, they have been relating to these two in just one lens. But now, as my colleague was saying, they'll become indifferent and confused on, do I follow dad, do I follow mom? And it doesn't matter who is in the wrong. Because there's a tendency, of course, to know, to try to establish who committed what, you know, who kind of caused the divorce. But the children don't care about that. The thing is, these are biological father, these are biological mother. So the first state is a state of confusion.
Okay.
And what happens behind the scene is that they are bottling up some other things like bitterness, anger, rage, even if they may not express it at the early stage. Remember also, they will also be confused because of decisions.
Yes.
Because there will be other decisions that may be affected in terms of where they're going to school, who is going to be feeding them, who is the custodian, and many things that kind of get into that space, which then they get confused. Remember, they were not part of the contract of the relationship because two adults, they meet together, they agree to stay together. Children were not in that contract. So for them, they are quite more neutral. I know what happens is that they may have some preferences because of maybe who is feeding them with the information, who is talking to them during that process. And that I've seen maybe later into their adulthood affect, because I've seen sometimes where a child may incline so much maybe on, let's say, the mother or the father at the beginning, but when they grow up, they kind of start questioning, by the way, did I follow the right instinct?
Yeah.
Was really my mother right or my father right? So I think just to summarize that state of confusion, especially depending on the age they are in, if they are in a very early stage, definitely they will be innocently confused. If they are especially teenage, the anger and rage will be very evident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because that was my next question. How does age differ based on, you know, the child's age? Are they more affected? Sometimes, you know, the younger the child, sometimes I don't think they really understand what's happening. But as you are approaching your teens, that's when you have a better understanding, a clearer picture of what exactly is going on, and you're reacting in a more emotionally intelligent way. So does age really become a factor with regards to how a child reacts emotionally to divorce?
Absolutely, because younger children, most often than not, they tend to attach to their moms. And because assuming mom is mostly present at home,
Yeah.
so it becomes a bit, they're guarded somehow.
Okay.
But older children, like from 12 and above, these are kids that are aware. They are accustomed to having two parents at home. They are accustomed to having certain things happen at home. Now, all of a sudden, this is going to change. What happens? They start being resentful. And the thing with kids is they start forming opinions in their own heads first. Now, unfortunately, grown-ups like us, we start feeding kids information to gain favor. Because as a mother, you will start telling kids, or even just saying it loudly, oh, your dad is this and that, your dad should have not done ABCD. Now, what you're doing is you're putting ideas in that child's mind to form an opinion that their father is not a nice person. Or if the primary caregiver is the dad, you keep saying things about your mother is such a lousy person, she does this, she does that. Now, when these kids are a bit older, they start thinking in their minds, so this marriage is falling apart because of dad or
Yes.
because of mom.
Yes.
Now, the moment they start forming that opinion, they start acting differently towards that person because the only way they can express themselves is through anger. And you will see it in their behavior. They'll start rebelling. They'll start doing things they're not supposed to do. And when you talk to them, they will be able to answer back. Why? Because they feel like they need to, that is the only way they can be able to express themselves. And because they can't talk back, like they cannot insult you, they can't argue, what they'll do is they'll show you with their actions.
Right.
They'll start missing school, they'll start hanging out with, you know, the people that you're telling them not to hang out with, they'll start coming home late, and the moment you ask, they will either not answer you or walk away. Yes.
Right. Now, Gabriel, how exactly does divorce impact a child's long-term emotional development in the long run? You know, does it lead to issues like anxiety and depression later on in their life?
Absolutely, yes. But just to I peel one onion, one layer of the onion
Yes.
is critical component of when a child is growing up is what you call identity. It's just that aspect of knowing who they are and why they are there. We usually call the IP, the
Yeah.
IP, the identity and purpose. The question is, where am I? The purpose is, why am I here? And those two are mostly grounded
Okay.
during when they are growing up. And both parents have a huge influence because they are seeing these parents as role models and all that. Now, when that process is disrupted, when they are shaping up their identity and their purpose, because they have questions, who am I? Why am I here? Where is the end in terms of my life and all that?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the parents are parting ways.
Yeah.
That disruption automatically causes anxiety. And that may lead them to depression, though it may be in their subconscious. They may not necessarily be able to exhibit it directly. So what happens is you're going to start now having children who have low esteem. They don't believe in themselves.
Yes.
They will attach themselves to anybody. They will become vulnerable from let's say, what we call predators. And they also have it very difficult in terms of even relating socially with other people because they lost trust. You see, if you grow up in a family where you can see that are in good ties, they're in love, there's trust in the family, there's how you tend also to exhibit that when you go out, when you're establishing your relationships. So you find these children may actually replay a bit of a certain mistrust, and they may not necessarily trust relationships, even friends, in terms of the friendships and all that. So there'll be a social disconnect in terms of how they relate with each other. Sometimes they may want to kind of express and erupt their anger or their rage to their relationship and their friends.
Yeah.
So that may manifest in terms of a child maybe being a bit very aggressive and sometimes maybe even violent because of that encultured experience during especially the early state.
Okay.
So say the challenge also may be mental again. I think there was a research that was shown that almost, children who have gone through divorce, they have almost 20% plus there more predisposition to mental health issues.
Wow.
And it's something, of course, what current people here calling them trauma. I know
Yeah.
it's a whole topic by itself. Because that traumatic experience, they are going to be responding to it later
Yes.
when they are whether teenage or adults.
Yes.
So there's both mental and also the social. And of course, it can also project in how their self-esteem look like and how they express themselves in life later when they are adults.
Very well said. Thank you for that. Judith, let's talk about how children can cope. Now, we have highlighted the issues that children go through and what they feel emotionally and mentally when their parents actually are undergoing a divorce and their family is kind of now separated. So how can they cope? What are some of the healthy ways to cope with this emotional stress caused by divorce for children?
Thank you very much, Shiksha. First of all, it's the parents to be able to keep reminding their children and assuring them that they love them. Because divorce is a period of loss and grief. And these kids, they need to be allowed to express themselves. They need to be able to be allowed to express how they feel and why they feel the way they do.
Absolutely.
Because they should not be shut down. And one of the cases, like a friend of mine went through the process of divorce.
Right.
And the unfortunate bit was the parents had to live separately. In fact, out different towns completely. Now, the thing that helped their kids is going through therapy and making sure that even the parent that is not physically present, they can be able to avail time to be present, to remind the children that mom and dad are not going to be together anymore, but it doesn't change how we feel about you.
Yeah.
We care, we love you. And you have to grieve that loss. You have to go through the process and understand that it's okay for you to be angry.
Yeah.
Now, how you express that anger is what matters. So now also just engaging kids in activities like making sure they can do artwork or whatever they're passionate about, really, because they need to take that energy somewhere. Otherwise, if they don't, they will be bottling it up.
Inside,
And
yes.
as he has rightfully said, if you look at a lot of cases that are happening now, a lot of marriages or relationships that are abusive, really, most of those adults came from marriages that ended up in divorce because they never addressed their issues, their emotions, their feelings. What they do is they end up projecting it on their significant others, on their friends, on their, the environment and the people around them. And it's very funny that even in our neighborhoods, you will tell the children that have gone through homes that have experienced divorce, why, how they express themselves, how they talk to other people, and how they view marriage. And you will even realize they will tell the other children, as our home, mom is not there, our dad is not there. They will just they will be having some habits that they can be able to express. So it's important for them to be allowed room for expression and also just take them through a process of coaching and therapy sessions. They really help.
All right. Now, Gabriel, as we continue to discuss this particular topic, how exactly can parents really minimize the damage and the turmoil that is caused on the child's emotional and mental well-being? Like, is there ways for them to be able to do this in a very healthy way just so that the children are not as affected? How exactly do they reduce the level of turmoil?
Yeah, I think we go back to the basics. Children were not part of your contract.
Yeah.
So marriage.
Yeah, when you assign the marriage certificate.
Therefore, when you're separating, they are not really privy to that. In terms of, yes, you're separating because there are differences and there are reasons and all that. But they have 100% rights to both of you. 100%. And there's no one who is favorable than the other. Unless maybe whether there are risk issues or risk factors.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the parents need to have a bit of sense of maturity that when they are going through that process, children need to be assured. There has to be kind of an assurance that dad loves me, mom loves me. But it takes a lot of maturity because what I have seen mostly is where there's a temptation to use the children as a battlefield.
Yes.
And you may have maybe some separate, if you have more than one or two kids, so you find maybe there's a kind of a certain bias. One kid is biased to the dad, another kid is biased to the mom. And the moment you do that, of course, later when they grow up, they actually are going to rationalize. Was this really my favorite tree? Because I have seen tendencies even where a child grow up knowing the dad is, the bad one.
Yeah, the whole time.
But when that child is 20s or 30s, they start looking for that dad. No matter the kind of story they were told about that dad. So the issue is, when you're going through the process, maintain a very neutral ground when it comes to you relating to the children.
Okay.
Both of you have equal time, equal access to the children, unless where there may be some risky issues in terms of maybe one parent probably is mentally unstable. That's okay, that's a medical issue. But as long as both of you are mentally okay, you have the equal right. So that can minimize a lot of damage. Then avoid discussing each other's issues when the children are there.
Yes.
Sort your issues, adult issues separately. When you're meeting the children, your work is more to assure them, give them the affirmation that you love them. Avoid exposing to them your own issues.
Like, don't make them take sides.
Exactly, and don't make them take sides. So allow them just to be able to be candid, to express themselves. One of the things I've seen work in many divorces where let the children ask them, how do you feel about this? What do you think would have been better? Yes, and be empathetic in that situation. They can also absorb that empathy to them. So I think it takes the parent to be very mature, both also emotionally, and to separate issues, that this is an issue between me and my partner, but the children are not part of this. And don't deny, don't use the children as your battlefield. It's like your bullets to beat each other. So you might find the man is using the children to punish the wife, and the wife is using the children to punish the husband.
Yes.
So that neutrality is very important when you're going through the divorce process. But also, one of the things also I've seen, also surround your children with some other people who can be mentors. Yes. What we call step mentors. Step mentors is like if the children are 10-year-old, try to at least identify a 5-year-older or a 10-year-older person who can mentor them. That we kind of try to hedge the gap and the vacuum that is created by the parent's absentia. I think also maintain continuous communication on a daily basis, where you communicate to the children on a daily basis. Let them know the updates in terms of this, where we are. December we are going to spend this place. The other Christmas you're going to, let them have a structure that give them an assurance that they are not going to lose much, apart from, of course, just having to live in the same, or they are no longer living in the same house with their parents. So, but also having them have some other mentors who you attach, because as a parent, you can actually introduce. One of the things I learned, especially in parenting, is I may not be very cool to my children, because they see me, of course, you are older, you're the ancient of days. But one of the things that worked is where me now, I mentor other younger ones who are closer to my children. So what happens is that when you're going through that process, if your children is 10 years, look for like a 15-year-old or some 18-year-old who are not very far from your children and attach them as mentors.
Okay.
And allow them just to have a social connection. It works magic in that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, those are some great tips there. We'll be taking a short break, but when we come back, remember, we'll continue having this conversation right here on TV47. This is the Morning Cafe Show as we discuss the emotional impact of children during divorce. So let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I met the stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an...
Welcome back. You're watching the Morning Cafe Show. This is TV47. I am Shiksha Arora. And as we discuss this particular topic, which is the emotional impact on children that is of divorce and how really it changes the life of a child in the mental capacity, how exactly it leads to developmental issues later on in life, to romantic issues later on in life. Speaking of that, I actually want to get into that particular element where we talk about how it gives children who've actually seen divorce in their houses, in their families, and whose parents have been separated, how it leads for them to have trouble growing up and actually now having romantic relationships of their own. Does it lead to commitment issues? Does it actually lead to cases of, you know, where they feel super obsessive about this relationship and they have to prove a point that if my parents' relationship did not work, mine has to work? Judith.
What we do not understand is children, we mirror our children's lives.
Yeah.
Like they literally replicate what they see at home.
Mm-hmm.
You will find a lot of people, even in their marriages, if you look at how they behave, it's exactly what they picked from home. Now, when that marriage breaks at home, what happens? This person becomes distrustful.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get into a relationship, the first thing they will be thinking in their mind is, when will this person be leaving? They could be leaving me anytime.
They always had that fear.
Yes. Now it becomes difficult for them to commit. So you will find someone having a repeated cycle of different relationships every few months or every year. And then with that, it also it breeds that environment of being obsessive, because you keep wondering, I need to keep tabs on my partner so that they don't leave me. Yeah. I need to be on top of things. And that can become very, very dangerous, because it leads to emotional abuse and sometimes even physical abuse, because you will want to protect this person. Like you look at them as a property. Like, this is something that I've acquired, I need to keep. Because in your mind, you have not dealt with the trauma of what happened in your parents' marriage. And for you now, you have to prove a point. One, either my marriage has to work, or I have to hold on to this relationship with everything that I've got. Okay. So it can really breed the cycle of being extremely obsessive, and also lack of commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Gabriel, does divorce actually change a child's perception of marriage, of love, relationships, trust, honesty, communication as they grow older? And do these, what can I say, shortcomings affect them in their own relationships?
Absolutely, yes. And it's because there's what you call modeling. You are what you have learned cumulatively. Mm-hmm. You become almost what you have learned cumulatively through your life. And parental experience is one of the things that you build up as a template in life.
Okay.
So if your parents were very mistrusting, you're likely actually to pick that. if you didn't find your parents work well in terms of relationship, you never even saw them handle relationships well, and also things like conflict resolutions, maybe they kept on fighting. There's a temptation, of course, subconsciously, you'll pick that as a template in life. And therefore, when now you get your time now for you to establish your relationships, there's a tendency either to be looking at your partner in the lens that you saw your parents look like. And your immediate response, which is a default organic response, is likely to be influenced by your background, what you call the parental experience. So there's a correlation between the parental experience and your own judgment and discretion that you exercise when you're aged. And that can affect then how you're going to sustain your relationship. There's a tendency for you to see, if I'm a man, to see my wife likely to one day behave like my mother. So even when it is not, when you see just a signal or an indicator, you're likely to respond to it like, now this is playing out again.
Yeah.
If you're a wife, you're likely to see your husband likely to act or to respond like your father. And therefore, even a little, just a gesture may actually trigger what you call now the traumatic response. This could end up be like my dad.
Okay.
And that can affect how you handle your relationships together, how you make decisions together. Even things like financial mistrust, because you're like, if you didn't find your either dad or your mom, responsible and faithful in terms of the resources like finances, and then you grow up, there's a tendency also to think, I think my husband may not be very honest about financial disclosure, or my wife is likely just to be, again, not faithful in terms of financial responsibility. So yes, through the template of modeling, the parental experience can influence. And you've seen like what Judith is saying, even when you interrogate people, for example, currently we have a high rate of people who are refusing to, get married. When you establish or kind of dig deeper, you realize this parental experience somewhere. It may not be divorce, but it actually be dysfunctional family, where the husband, where the husband and the wife are still living together,
but there's no love.
The children, but there's no love. And also there's no understanding, because we often say that marriage is not sustained by love per se.
Absolutely.
It's actually by understanding and wisdom and knowledge. So if they didn't see that, they are also not trusting themselves, and their esteem is low and kind of teared down for them to establish a working relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so they either tend to probably be play safe, let me be alone, let me not engage, because I don't want mine to be to turn up like my parents.
Yes.
Or then when they engage, they will have a lot of issues in terms of trust, even with the relationship, and that doesn't trust then.
Okay. Right, let's talk about counseling and therapy for children, because sometimes when you say and suggest, okay, maybe your child should go through therapy, there's this myth, and we need to demystify that children don't need therapy. Children don't need counseling. This is a child we're talking about. Why does a child need to go through therapy? What is the use of it? Does it even help? So at what age do you think that sometimes when divorce is out of hand, the parents are not in communication, there is clearly friction there, and this is obviously now causing the child to get overwhelmed, causing them emotional stress. How exactly do they cope with this? They can go through therapy and counseling. So what would you suggest? At what age is the right age to be able to go through counseling or therapy? And how important is it for a child to undergo counseling or therapy in some cases to be able to deal better from these consequences that come with divorce?
Thank you very much, Shiksha. One thing I tell people is even a 5-year-old is aware what is happening. Because from my own personal experience, my marriage broke when my children were younger. But at 5 years, I was able to take my son through therapy. Why? Because let me tell you, kids have photographic memory. Like, they might not even put it in words, but they act it out. Now, when people say that you can't take small children for therapy, I think that is a very, it's misconception, because there are children psychologists that really understand the art of a child's mind. Because kids can express themselves through art, kids express themselves through sports, and for my case, my son was able to express himself through art and sports. Now, this is where you take your emotions, you look at a ball as the world, and then they're walked through how they can be able to put that emotion in play. And so people look at older children, like the preteens and teens, like they are the ones that are supposed to go through therapy, but even smaller children, because what happens is their emotions get built up over time, and then as they grow older, they will feel like something is broken in them. They'll feel like they are not normal. They're not like other kids. Why? Because they did not get an outlet. Now that outlet might not be them verbalizing what they feel or what they think, but it's through their actions. So for me, I tell parents, as long as your child can be able to express themselves, 5 years and above, they can be able to go through a therapy session. And for them, because again, in the profession, there are each individuals handling different sectors. Like the people who can be able to deal with the teens very well, younger children very well, because now they can bring out that out of the children to be able to express themselves, and that helps them now start writing down. Because you'll realize by the time my son was getting to 9 years, the letters that he used to write at 5, at 6, those are the letters we go through. We still do therapy. And you have to go through that for them to be able to express what was at the back of their mind. And they still tell you things like, you know, Mom, I remember this. You know, Mom, I used to see this. And you get shocked that, because as I said, kids are very observant. They might not even respond to what you're saying, but more importantly, what you're doing, how you respond, how you react. And that is why I tell people, when you see a child having an outburst, something is happening at home.
Okay.
Yeah, it is just a manifestation, because now they have to project that out somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. Now remember, if you're watching at home and if you are somebody who has seen divorce, of course, if you're going through divorce as well, or you know somebody who's going through divorce and you would like to ask a question about how exactly to maneuver this situation that is a divorce, and how to protect the child and make sure that the children are not affected mentally and emotionally, you can ask such questions. And we are discussing the emotional impact of divorce on children. So if you have anything that you'd like to clarify, if you want some advice, if you have a question, please feel free to do so. The WhatsApp number is 0793 267 279. WhatsApp us on that number once again. WhatsApp us on 0793 267 279. Alternatively, you can call us live on 0795 045 864. I have Gabriel Nyamu, who is a purpose coach, with me in studio, as well as Judith Ngerechi, who is a wellness advocate and a champion for women and vulnerable children rights as well. So yes, please drop those questions. Anything you would like to ask about this particular topic, do so right now, because you have a chance to do so until 9 a.m. Gabriel, let's get back to you as we continue having this conversation. Co-parenting. This, I feel, is the biggest elephant in the room, because when you have this question and when you talk about divorce, or when you discuss divorce, the one thing that comes to everyone's mouths is co-parenting and how difficult it can get at times, because you have scenarios where the parents are not even in communication. They aren't even looking at each other. They are not even seeing each other eye to eye. But at the same time, you have a whole child there in the middle who is affected, because it's like, okay, mom wants you for 3 days, dad wants you for 4 days, and mom wakes up one day and she's like, no, I want you for the whole week. Talk to dad, call dad and have that conversation. I'm not going to call dad. So what exactly would you like to tell such parents when it comes to co-parenting and how to do it in a healthy way?
Absolutely. Just to build up on what we had started earlier in terms of how do we protect the children.
Yeah.
One way is actually that co-parenting itself. It's one of the way to then protect the child not suffering the consequences of that divorce. I know co-parenting have various dimensions because, again, there is a context to it.
Yes.
Because context will, of course, also be interpreted from also the statuses of the two parents. Because there is a social side. Social side is things like presence. If it comes to maybe children accessing both of you, they should have equal opportunity for that. They may spend more time maybe on one party, whoever is the primary caregiver. But largely, both of them should make sure at least there's intentional moment of face time. I know nowadays, because you have technology, there are WhatsApp videos and telegrams and all that, but there should be intentional FaceTime, moments together, where you're spending together with the children. That's one side. But then number two, where I think I find it a bit more a challenge, is the financial obligations. Because there's a tendency, of course, now in the financial obligations, the primary caregiver, of course, has a responsibility because they're the one, taking care of the daily budget, the meals, the clothing and all that. And that's where now there has to be a very clear mutual responsibility agreed among the two parents on what is my responsibility. You may be in two states of wellness in terms of financial wellness, because again, doesn't mean both of you have the same financial. One of the things I have found is where one parent sometimes wants to raise a bar to punish the other. What do I mean? I want my children to go to this school, which is very high, maybe even higher than where they were before. And that's a choice of one parent, but the other parent completely is unable to be able to sustain that. And therefore, you find now there's a drift there and a tug of war of will I sustain, will I not? So the thing is, there should be at least a mutual discussion and an agreement on even the kind of school to go. Because you can choose a school which myself as one of the parents, I might not be able to afford. And probably you could be the one who is working, you can afford it.
Yeah.
So the choice even of the school should not necessarily be based on just the bias of one parent. Let there be a mutual discussion. And let there be just that fairness that, yes, you may probably, as of now, the state of your financial well-being could contribute more. That's okay, because that's tuition. But if tomorrow then I also start earning more, I'll also take over that responsibility.
Yes.
But that calls for a lot of maturity. The other aspect of us is to make sure a critical milestone of the children, you celebrate together. If your kids are going through maybe their birthdays, possibly maybe rite of passage, and they are going through life milestones, significant, like they have finished their high school, they have done their,
Even
such
things like parent-teacher meetings,
exactly,
sports day.
Exactly. Such kind of experiences, let there be both of you participating. So the thing is, how do you do that if you have not really matured yourself? And first of all, dealt with your own emotions. Don't take it so personal, because whenever you meet with your maybe ex and then maybe your emotions bottle up, there's a tendency then even to cause drama in those parent meetings. Yeah. So the thing is, both parents have to mature up, have to deal with their own healing independently. Because when both of you are healing and you have a support mechanism, and one of the things I think can help is when you're going for those parent meetings and if maybe you're unstable in terms of emotions, Carly, if I'm a man, I'll carry another man. If you're the mother, have another lady who walks with you, because they're likely to tone you down, no, you're overreacting here. you know? So, but attend those meetings where possible. You can rotate. If you can't be able to attend both of you together, you can rotate. I'm going for this one, I'm going for the other, sports day. You can have a rotation. Able to meet together, like birthdays, okay, meet together and celebrate. And you carry your own, maybe your buddies and other, just to make sure at least you also maintain your cool in that process. But it takes a lot of maturity to get there, because the tendency is that when you meet, you of course project the anger, the rage that maybe you had, depending on again the cause of that divorce. But the thing is, don't make the children suffer because of that. You handle your own healing, also the other partner to handle their own healing, and then the children experience love, affection, and affirmation from both of you.
Okay, okay, thank you for that. Judith, let's talk about how important it is for extended family members such as grandparents, aunts, uncles to actually come in during such a time to be able to help the child process these emotional challenges of divorce better, just to be able to minimize the damage. You know, they could act as a cushion sometimes when the parents are in disagreement and they're not seeing eye to eye. The grandparents could come into play and also contribute and kind of be the middleman and be the third party who is helping the child maneuver these challenges and to minimize the damage. So how exactly do grandparents, extended family members help?
Thank you very much. Just to double down on what Gabriel has said, it takes a lot of growth and you need to put your children first.
Yes.
Like, just check your emotions, and I usually tell people you need to be very practical. The moment you get into these conversations of co-parenting, I usually tell people, can you leave your emotions out the door? You will pick it out, you'll pick it up on your way out. Because the moment you start thinking about me, you leave that child out. And I tell people, the thing is, look at that child and tell yourself, this is the bigger picture. And for you to be able to deal with the bigger picture, you have to remove yourself from that situation.
Absolutely.
And it boils down to even the extended family, because let me tell you, my family will defend me, they will stand with me, they will believe all manner of shenanigans, even if they know.
Yes, that you're wrong.
Yes, they will still kind of, have
your back,
me and stand with me. But I tell people, it takes a lot of emotional maturity. It takes a lot of just being self-aware for you to even allow your extended family to step in when the two of you cannot be able to do things. You know, you're not on the same page. And I really hope and trust that we will get to a place where grandparents will come and step in without being prejudicial. Because you see now, if it's my children and the grandparents from the other side, they want to hang out with them, you will find resistance from my side. You know, who will take care of them, da, da, da. And you're forgetting who was taking care of them when you guys were together. See, it is still the same people. So what has changed? Because you people no longer see eye to eye, it doesn't mean that the entire family has to break down, because they have cousins. They have people they had established a relationship with that they need to maintain, even just for sanity. So then it gets to a place where people will not even go to Christmas to the other grandparents' side because, oh, there's issues. And I tell people, sometimes your children don't even have to see all the drama and the shenanigans. Like, just they go to their grandparents. You don't have to be there. You can drop them, leave.
Yeah.
And just
they're not comfortable.
Yeah, and you don't need to keep calling all the time, asking them, "Mumekula, mumefanya." You know, I feel like human beings, we are very selfish. Yeah. And we are also, we are emotionally immature most of the time, especially when it gets to conflict. Because even friendship, when you break up with someone, they go and start posting things about you, maligning your name. It's human nature, because you want to make that person feel hurt. You want them to understand.
And you know, the internet never forgets.
Exactly.
So your child is going to grow up 10 years later and see all these things on your page. Yeah. And it will affect them.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're a teenager and you are on social media and your mom or dad is posting these things. In school, sometimes, you know, other kids might have seen this, especially in cases of celebrities. Yes. You know, if you are in a family where your parents are celebrities, they are public figures, and then they're going on social media and talking about their private life and posting about their partner. And then when they come home, when they come to school, it's like their friends have seen, everyone knows.
Yeah, it's actually very unfortunate. We live in such a digital era, and the sad bit about this generation of ours is we feel the need to put everything out there.
Absolutely.
Like sometimes you don't have to give all your business. No, you don't have to tell everything out there. And because our kids are on the internet as well. You can imagine younger children who are on TikTok, they are on Roblox, they are playing, and then they will start having discussions like, you know, Nani's mom, they did this and that, or she said this and this. And then you start wondering, why is your child being emotionally reclusive? It's because of the things that is happening out there.
100%.
Just trying to keep yourself in check and letting the kids just have a moment with both sides of the family without you putting your emotions in it.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Judith. And of course, to you, Gabriel, do you think the portrayal of divorce on media, for example, TVs, movies, it just accurately reflects the emotional impact on children? Because exactly, sometimes I feel like a child could be influenced in a way where, based on this child's experience that they're watching a movie, they also feel like they're going to react the same way. They kind of pick up some of the things that they've seen on television shows, on how other children have dealt with divorce and separation, and they kind of mirror that. As you said, it's called modeling.
Yes.
So because of what they're watching, they also behave in that same way. How do we stop this from happening? Because sometimes it could actually be even a negative way. You know, sometimes this child is being aggressive, they're fighting, they're being a rebel, they're getting physical with their parents, they're showing forms of violence, and that could be mirrored in this child who's watching this particular movie or TV show at home. So how do you stop this from happening?
Absolutely. One of the challenges you have in the digital space is what we call the pseudo or idealism. Because what we see is not real quite often. It's acted, it's so pseudo, it's a utopia. But we forget that, of course, how a human brain works. When the child is watching, they are seeing like this is the way life, the ordinary life should look like.
Yes.
So they are forming shapes, patterns, and ideal models in themselves. And that may inform their judgment and discretion as they grow up. One of the things, of course, to do is to make sure at least there's a safe space in terms of how we curate the content that the children are watching.
Yes.
If a child is exposed to, you know, series that have a lot of violence, there's a tendency to actually start interpreting, why am I not seeing violence in my family? Because they are seeing it in the screen.
They feel like something is not wrong.
Now,
and their family is not normal.
Their family is not normal because why are you not fighting, you know, dashing things all right and left and center? So the thing is, curation is very key. But also, one of the things I have found is trying to have a moment after every watch to it's kind of a debrief. But this takes a lot of time and very intentional for parents, where you're asking the child, after watching this, what happens? How does it make you feel?
How does it make you feel?
Are there key learnings? What do you learn out of it? What's the good and the bad? You help the child isolate issues, and then that become a feedback and feed-forward session
That's brilliant.
To be able to curate that, whatever they have already picked. Because if you, you may not have a lot of control of every time of the screen.
Absolutely.
But the beauty of children, they are storytellers, which is something we lose when we get into adult crisis. We stop telling stories.
We stop telling stories.
So have story moments with the children just to ask them, what have you watched today? What was it all about? What did it make you feel? Was it something that you found was out of, normal? And you are trying to feed back and feed forward. And out of it, you're able to isolate some things that they may have picked that you need to deal with. That means then you have to have time, literally. You have to create ample time to have that kind of a conversation. But children will tell you all the things, whether they did even the mess. They will tell you, I did mess here, because they're storytellers.
Yeah.
But now your work there is not to judge them harshly, it's kind of to feedback them, ask them what they feel, what they thought about it, and out of it then you can almost coach that process to help them then internalize the information. Because there's a certain psychological window on overexposure where now something becomes a memory. I think it's around 60-something. So there's a way in which you can hijack those impulses before they shape and become internalized memory, which may later inform the behavior. So creating a safe space, curating the content, have feedback and feed forward moment, which is like a debrief session every day. Ask them questions. Who did you play with? Who did you interact with? What content did you watch? That will help a lot.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Now, for parents who may be watching at home and for those who are actually worried about their child's well-being, and sometimes we have cases where parents are not separating or parents are in marriages where there's no love, where there's no communication, where there's no sort of, that bond is not there. And sometimes they're just only there because of the child's well-being, because they're concerned that if we separate, if we take a step where we now live in separate houses and we are now officially divorced, it will affect my child in a very negative way. So what would you like to tell such parents? What would your main piece of advice be for such a parent who's watching at home? I'll start off with you, Judith.
Thank you. For me, I usually say people need to have honest conversations, and kids are not robots. They are human beings. They have feelings, they have eyes, they have ears, they listen. And I tell people, we put our kids in such bubbles that we forget that they have expressions of their own. And we live in an era, not like, in our generation, when we were growing up, we could not have conversations with our parents. In fact, discussing family matters was it was a no-go zone. But these days, because everything is out there now, having honest conversation is a very important thing. And the thing I advise people is instead of staying in a dysfunction, because again, that dysfunction is also a form of communication, because you're teaching these children. Like the way we are, even us as human beings, when you're on social media a lot, there are certain things you pick.
Yes.
And then even in your mind, you will start, because again, what you feed your mind is very, very important. You will start thinking at night with just in your own small space. You will start regurgitating that information. And you will be thinking, okay, so-and-so is doing like this. I wish I could do that. I wish I could be able to do that. So even for kids, it happens. Now, instead of staying in that dysfunction, because you're communicating, you're teaching these children that this is okay. I would rather you actually have honest conversations with them, that it is not working, this is what is happening, not giving too much information, just the basics that there might be a separation and these are going to be the terms, but you need to also ask them how they feel about that and how they would want that to work out. Because sometimes they will be thinking, I want to stay at dad's place. You, mom, when you're told that, you're like thinking, what is that dad doing to the child?
Yeah.
And for them, maybe it's just because they will have like a time to play PS with their dad. Nothing really much. There's no malice, So again, I keep saying, have honest conversations. And while you are doing that, please remove your emotions from it. Just try to be objective. I tell people, co-parenting is like having a business contract.
Yeah.
You need to stick to the terms of engagement. You need to be consistent, and then allow those kids to have a space where they know this is a continuity.
Okay.
There has to be that continuity, and then there has to be an assurance that this will not change. And in case something changes, bring them to the table. Have a conversation with them. Let them tell you what they think, what they feel, and how they would want things to be done. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Judith. Some gems right there. And what about you, Gabriel? As we wrap up, what piece of advice would you like to give a parent who's watching on how exactly to maneuver a divorce in a way that will minimize the damage on the child's emotional and mental well-being?
I think one of the things I can summarize with is that children actually don't belong to us.
Okay.
They are not a property. We are custodians and stewards for a very short time because these children have their own life, and to maturity they have a purpose and destiny. So So your responsibility as two parties is to nurture that purpose hidden. Because this child was born as a gift to the world.
Yeah.
It's a gift that needs to sprout out and impact humanity, the planet, and the people. There's a future president here, there's a future business person, and both of you are nurturing that destiny.
Yes.
That's why I want to support Judith. Remove your selfish interests and don't use the children as your therapy pieces. No. What you suffered, you heal yourself. You get to a process of healing your own past and your own past trauma. So I'll say it takes that maturity and intentional that you're shaping a destiny and a purpose packed within these children. And therefore, both of you, the society, the government, everybody, the villagers, the estate mates, they have a responsibility for that child. Because the destiny is beyond yourself.
Yes.
You are just a short-term custodian and a steward for the moment that God allows you to nurture that child.
Brilliant. What a very wholesome conversation here with me. I have Gabriel Nyamu, a purpose coach, as well as Judith Ngerechi, who is actually a wellness advocate champion for women and vulnerable children rights. We have been discussing the emotional impact on children when it comes to divorce and how it affects children's health mentally as well as emotionally. So thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. We appreciate your time and we appreciate your input towards just steering this conversation forward right here on TV47. This is the Morning Cafe, and I am Shiksha Arora. With me, I think we've been having this conversation for almost 40 minutes, and it has been quite amazing. So we'll do this again next week, same time, same place. But don't go anywhere, because coming back, we have the Tasty Wednesday segment, one of my favorite segments. And Stan actually ended up going to Treetops, where he cooked something really interesting with a chef there that is known as the Hawaiian toast. So in case you're wondering what exactly that is, stick with us right here, because after this break, you'll get to see exactly what a Hawaiian toast is at Treetops with Stan. Don't go anywhere.